besides making music, how would you recommend promoting independently? Yeah, that's the thing too, you know. Uh, Getting started as an independent artist, I mean, I could tell you all about it. I was exactly that. You know, I wasn't scooped up by Tiesto and piggybacked onto the stage of Ultra, and all of a sudden I'm a superstar. You know what I mean? Like you got to do some work. You know, like I say this to a lot of guys. Maybe I might have said it in some previous streams or something like that, and I know I might have said it in person. You know, a conversation that didn't suck that I actually could stick around with and give someone some beneficial advice. But you know, as an independent artist, and by independent artist, I just mean you know like a guy that makes music that isn't signed to a major, and you know nobody knows you. The kind of key thing you got to realize, you know, in this age now, I started out kind of at a time when you know the internet was just kind of coming out, you know, coming into age, in terms of not like oh the internet. I mean Netscape's always been around, but like the internet is such a vestibule for you know promotion and Twitter and social networks and stuff like that. Like I probably started making music just before the MySpace boom, so there really wasn't anything like that. Like there was MP3.com, which lasted like you know a year or two or whatever and stuff like that. But there were no huge, you know, there wasn't a lot of media coverage on that kind of thing. So I never had to do that, and I think that worked out in my favor because when you're starting out, you know, you have to realize that you know you want to make people, you want to make music for you know people, you know, not for the internet, not for blogs. So I think that if I had to do this again in today's climate, I would really focus on being very offline. I know it sounds crazy, but I there comes a point where you do get online in terms of like I've got this fan page and I've got this Facebook that's got all these followers. But I mean, don't take your music, you know, and go to a nightclub, meet a DJ, you know, go to a radio station. Like it's still old school, and I probably get the sound old school, but honestly, connections made in person are a million billion times more valuable than a spammed link, you know, or an email or a demo or a you know. So you really need to like do a lot of groundwork. And I'll tell you, actually, you know what? That's how I kind of found out about Sonny. Now I'm not. I didn't invent Skrillex. Skrillex invented Skrillex. There's no doubt about that. And I mean, his sound from you know Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites was the same before we even put that album out. You know, so that was kind of one captivating thing. But Sonny came to you know he was in person. He came to an event like me and Tommy just Tommy Lee crashed some random hard party out in LA. I don't think we performed. I think he asked us to perform and I couldn't. But we were just in the neighborhood and we're like, let's go to this party. I know Gary, no, no, no. And then we were all sitting backstage and then Tommy said, oh hey, you got to meet this kid, Sonny. He makes some music and no, 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 whatever. And then Sonny came in and he delivered me actually the Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites on a USB key, you know. And I was like, oh cool, you know. And now I'm more likely to take that piece of hardware and make that, you know, physical connection. Well, he seems like a normal kid, a little wacky, and yeah, and he kind of has his head around the music thing because he's done it with his previous endeavors with From First to Last kind of thing. But that was a personal connection, and you know, and then I took that back and milled over it for a while, you know, and now Skrillex, right? Like, took him on tour for a while and, you know, introed him out, shared what I thought was cool at the time, and then all of a sudden the kid's running laps around me, and I'm like, all right, off you go, back to Big Beat. Or Alza, however you please. So, you know, like that's kind of cool. So oh, the moral of the story is if Sonny just emailed me links and posted SoundCloud stuff, I would never have found that, you know. And it's not necessarily about you know appeasing one guy. Or my start was really like going to my okay. Here, I'll give you. I got a minute, so I'll give you my life story. So when I was growing up in Niagara Falls, I you know found out about you know electronic music and all that stuff through like you know, friends that were into it, and I went to a couple like small little raves and thought, wow, this is kind of neat. I want to get into this. And then you know, I get home, get on America Online or whatever, you know, hit up some GeoCities pages to how do you make electronic music. And I mean, now back then computers weren't even capable of recording 16-bit audio, so you know, like, and that kind of thing. So I started out with like really simple shit. So there were programs like totally ancient DOS programs called trackers and stuff like that that just made like chip tunes. So I got into that and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like nothing I hear on the radio because, you know, they use equipment, they use synthesizers. So I had to investigate. So I just, in my infinite wisdom, figured I'd go to the nearest, you know, our local big computer store that, you know, is like a mom and pop shop kind of thing, you know, but they specialize in building computer systems for consumer use, basically. And it was, funnily enough, it was called Cyberdyne Systems, and it was in Niagara Falls. And I went there and I said, hey guys, anyone, you guys know anything about electronic or making music with a computer kind of thing? And they were like, well, yeah, we know some things, but I mean, none of us are producers or anything like that. And the owner of the shop kind of came around, overheard the conversation, said, you know, well, maybe you want Cakewalk. That's a really high-end thing, and it really was at the time, trust me. Cakewalk and Cubase were like the two things. She was like, oh yeah, you want Cakewalk and this and that, and I was like, oh wow, okay, great. So I went over there and started thinking about that, and I'm thinking, wow, Cakewalk's like, you know, $300, which might as well be what $1 billion is to me now, you know. And as it turned out, because I made that human connection, and like I said, this is going to keep tying into my point. As I made that human connection, that human interaction, that actually get off the internet, you know, now Adam says, well, hey, you know, we're a bunch of DJs, and by DJs I mean they were like DJs. They had vinyl turntables because Pioneer wasn't even on the market at that time, or whatever. Besides the point. So he says, oh, you know, we're DJs and we get some guys, some hip hop guys from, you know, Rochester and another DJ from Niagara Falls, and we put together this radio show. And I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. Can I? He's like, you know, hey, we're gonna tape the show, you know, and you should come by, just hang out, you know. And then that's what I did. I hung out. I was the kid that just sat in a chair and watched these guys DJ. Right now, I knew that none of them were making music. They were just putting together a show. And then Adam was showing me that, you know, I'm going to use, you know, oh God, I can't remember the name of half the applications he used, but, you know, he would record it in SoundForge or something like that, and then how he'd burn it to a CD and all that stuff, and how he edits in commercials, and that just got me sparked. And I was like, that's so cool. So of course, every week these guys would produce this show, and I would go in and hang out and watch them do it. And that's it. It's just being there, you know. And it's not even like hard to figure out how to make these kind of connections. But and you know, you're there long enough, they all become your buddies or whatever. I mean, of course, I'm like 15 years old or whatever, but it was still really cool. And as the years went by, like, I mean, it was like, you know, another year or 6 months or something like that, then all of a sudden I realized, you know, like, hey, Adam would say, I got to go do this thing for this customer, because he still runs a mom and pop computer shop kind of thing. And he's like, can you just, you know, edit this commercial in for me? And I was like, oh, okay, well, I've seen you a million times and do it, so I can do that. And I go in and I do that, right? And then it just became such a thing that, you know, I was so there and active and involving myself in that process all the time, where it was like, you know, hey, you know, I'm just going to come to the shop, make some music. And then another one of the DJs from that kind of operation where they had that radio show said, you know, hey, I'm going to go open up a record store, and I'm going to build a studio in the back and all this stuff. And I'm like, sounds good to me. So, you know, skip school and go hang out at a record shop, right? It's like every kid's dream when you're 16, you know. But this is what, you know, I don't really necessarily feel too bad about it, but actually what happened was I spent so much time in that studio learning and downloading stuff and, you know, putting together things and learning to make music and all that stuff, that I was like, you couldn't get me out of that studio. Like, my mom would be calling, like, where's Joel? You got to come home. No, you know, and then it would be like, you know, of course when you're around 17, 18, literally I would pull all-nighters in there. They were like more DJs, you know what I mean? So they would go, you know, to the nightclubs, play records, whatever, and sold records inside the shop. And that was like kind of furthest point of their aspirations in music business. You know what I mean? But I was kind of that, plus I was producing or learning to produce. I didn't churn out a tune in the first 6 years of my like kind of just hanging out and learning about electronic music and the scene at the time. And like, forgive me, like, but you know, I have a lot of younger viewers here who are like 18 to 24, but I'm talking like, you know, when Chemical Brothers and Left Field and Armand Van Helden and you know, the Cassius and Bomb Scare, all those old house records were like selling physical. So that was around that time. So I, you know, just hung out and did that, and I think it weirdly, not weirdly enough, you know, came to a point where I was kind of superseding everyone in terms of how to do something, you know. So you know, some of the guys from the record shop would be like, I have to put together this commercial, and I don't know how to do this trick or this thing or make a jingle or whatever. I just record the show and slap it on a CD and drop it off at the radio station. I was like, well, here, you know what I mean? So I kind of outpaced everyone in terms of technology. And then, you know, the record shop then got a little bit tired, and, you know, I kind of hit my bottleneck there where it's like, you know, well, now what? What do we do? You know, it's like, and unfortunately the record shop closed, and I had to figure life out again. So I'm basically living at home. So then what happened is, you know, I got some jobs. I worked in a cannery peeling peaches and pears, which I will never eat to this day. I still will never eat another peach or another pear. Every time I smell one, see one, or whatever, it just drives me bonkers because that job was so horrible. Working at a cannery, I don't wish that on barracks, dude. It was bad. So I, you know, scrounged up enough pennies to buy my own 486 and, you know, put that in my bedroom. And I was like, oh, great. You know, now I don't have to schlep all the way downtown to the studio or the record store anymore and drive my parents insane or whatever. I can just do it from home. And then that's when I really had a lot of time to, you know, focus and fail high school and get yelled at by my mom and my dad to get a real job. All that, dude, it happens to everyone. I don't care who you are. And then what happened then? Yeah, the pears, dude. I was like, pears. Timeline. I'm just trying to remember my past here. So, yeah. So then I'm, you know, I've got this computer in my bedroom, and I'm like, well, okay, mom, dad, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not going to be a EDM or rock star when I'm older. So let's start thinking about plan B here. Learn to do web development, like GeoCity, nothing amazing, and then, you know, and then Flash. And Flash actually was really helpful to me because when it came out, it was like every website in the world had a. Hang on one sec. Yes. Okay, all right. See you later. It's in the top garage. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Is it locked or is it shut? Yeah, it's closed, and I'll close the gate on the way out. All right. Okay. Thanks. No problem. Bye. Oh, is Kelly here? No, she's not going to be back till late, she said, but like 9 or 10 o'clock sort of thing. Oh, all right. Okay. So, like I said, Flash came out, and every corporate website had a Flash intro. It was the craziest fad I've ever seen, and that was the worst. I had like a tickle in my throat. Oh, it's still there. God, I'm gonna die. All right, I'm good. I'm good. Anyway, a Flash comes out, and Flash, of course, as you know, supports audio. So there are some like guys. Jesus, that's gnarly. I've never had that happen before. Just hang on. Smoking's probably not optimal. Wait, 1 sec. I'm okay. You're gonna die if you keep smoking. I'm gonna die anyway. Like, it's another 10 years when I'm 80. You know, probably wanna die at that age. Okay, so Flash started, audio, blah blah blah. So there were some companies that actually were music libraries, like online music libraries that web developers could go to, license music, and then royalty free, you know, and put that music in their Flash intros and on their website and stuff like that. So I found this one company in Palo Alto or Fremont, somewhere in there. Oh, Fremont, yeah. And the company was called like Killer Sound, and what they were is an online sound library where you could go. If you're a company or a web developer and you want to have music that isn't like Billy Ray Cyrus, who's going to sue you for putting him on his website or me or whatever. And he ran this massive library, but he also had like a little army of, you know, dudes like me who just sat at home and wrote music randomly and, you know, put it out online or whatever. And I approached him. I said, hey, I'm a composer from Niagara Falls. I make electronic music, sort of, and I'd like to, you know, be a part of this thing. And he was like, oh, cool. So, you know, I gave him some loops and tracks and stuff like that for him to sell on his site. And they did okay, like, didn't, you know, blow his company up or whatever, but he, you know, it stood out in his library, and a lot of guys were like, you know, licensing my stuff because, you know, electronica was just kind of starting before anything it's like now. But, you know, so a lot of like car wash companies or God knows what were like, oh yeah, I want an electronica sound on my website or whatever, you know. So that's what I did, and it stood out. And then, you know, I would get a little, nothing massive, just little paychecks here and there from this company that, you know, shared some of the dividends and profits from purchases back to the artist. So I was like, oh wow, this is like almost a full-time job. This is what I want to do with my life. I want to make music and sell it to, you know, companies or commercials or film, or make my own music. God knows what. This is me. So, you know, and again, we're talking like, you know, a span of like 7 years. You know, it's not like all this just happened one week, next week, and the week after that. Like, it took a while, dude. So that was kind of my job for a little while too, is you know, developing music for music libraries. But all the time I was doing that, and in comparison of what I'm doing now, I'm learning. You know what I mean? Like, I'm learning this, I'm learning that. You know, new software comes out, I'm on top of it. So it's like, you know, you're just sharpening the knife, and you're getting paid for it too. So there's so many ancillary markets in music creation that you don't have to put out an EDM banger to make $1 million a year. You really don't, you know. I mean, it helps, but you don't need to worry about that, because you'll get there, because you're not going to get there. Well, at least at the time I wasn't going to get there, because they didn't have Fruity Loops and woodblock samples. Right? So had to work at it, unfortunately. So, you know, that just happens. And like I said, you do that for long enough, you practice, you learn things that, you know, you impress yourself. You know, wow, last year I didn't even know how to do this thing, and now I'm already like learning about mixing, you know, techniques and stuff like that, and just accumulating like a sponge. That's so important, to just take in information, not watch tutorials how to make fat beats, yo, and oh, and here's how I put together a beat. You know, no, you gotta do that, because that's how you learn. That's how you make you. You know what I mean? Not you clone of a clone. You know. That's really important, and that's something I can hear a mile away, especially when I'm, you know, just out and about scouting, like, who do I want on my label, you know? And same goes for everyone else and every other semi-major indie label. So the thing too after that is when it kind of became practical, where I thought, oh, okay, well, I can make music, I can make money, all right, and I can learn. Great. But you know, you're obviously, like, well, I have no equipment. I'm not making hundreds of thousands of dollars, so I can't buy this crazy equipment that, you know, is the unicorn or the holy grail of synth, or this cool mixing console, or this audio card. You know, it was all just a little out of reach. So again, there you go. Get on your bike, go outside and meet people, you know, and then I go to a studio, like a recording studio that had, you know, maybe $500,000 worth of gear and that I could never hope to own, and you know, whatever. And I met a guy named Dean Malton, who was a mixing engineer and a studio owner. Funnily enough, the studio just so happened to be, you know, a couple blocks away from my house in another industrial park. And did what I do, you know. I went in, hey dude, I make electronic music. I know it's not your area, but you know, I just like to hang around, you know, like, and just sit in on a couple sessions, learn a couple things, you know. I'm not gonna tell you to pay me or anything, you know, because I won't be doing anything, but just go be an intern, be a coffee guy, you know, whatever, just whatever gets you in that room, because sooner or later the opportunity for you to use is gonna come up, like, almost instantly, you know. So I get in there and I see this guy. He's using a 60 or a 32 channel Hill console. I'm sure maybe some percentage of you know what that is. It's just like a big mixing board, basically. That thing Garrix uses as a laptop stand. That thing, but a Hill one, not a SSL. So I go in there, and he's got that and 3 DA88s, right, which are a digital tape, basically. So you know, all the summing from the mix that he does on this big console goes into these tape machines. And like I said, the opportunity came up for me to go, hey, you know, you can do all that in the box now, eh? You don't even need the DA88s. You could actually dump all the stuff that are on all those little tapes and put them on a computer and see it on a screen. He's like, really? Yeah. And I mean, like I said, the computers were just coming of age to be able to do that at that time. We're talking like, you know, 97, 98. And, you know, he was just like, he's an old guy. He's a tape guy, you know. So I was just like, yeah, man, yeah, you can totally do this on a computer, dude. And they even now make like these things called virtual studio technology with Cubase and all this innuendo and stuff that you can really save a lot of time doing this. So then he's like, oh, well, so he went out and he went to this is like some full circle. So he goes out, goes to Cyberdyne, the place where like I first walked into, gets a computer built, brings it into the studio, we park it up, put some monitors up on the console so we can use a computer while he mixes, and then he said, well, here you go, you know, like, you know how to do it, so why don't you take these DA88 tapes from this session or whatever and dump them into Cubase. Brilliant. Okay, there, now I have a purpose, you know what I mean? Because I know something that mix engineer don't know guy. Now he's probably like, well, I haven't spoke to him in a while, but I mean, now that's probably his standard thing, you know. So it was a two-way relationship, because like, you know, he knows a lot about, you know, analog stuff and EQing and how to use stuff as opposed to what the medium of it, and I could learn that way, you know. So I could learn signal path and you know, real analog engineering and stuff like that, and how to hear for things and tips and tricks like that Fruity Loops tutorials are not going to give you, you know what I mean? Like I said, you can download all the software you want, you can buy all the plugins you want, but if you don't know how it actually works, really, then what's the point? You know, it's like, well, it would be like getting a self-driving P1. If you don't know how to drive, honestly, what a waste of time. So the thing is like I said, it's an exchange of knowledge in where you have an edge or something to give, you know, in exchange for something else. So, I mean, but that's in life. You know, you give money and you get money, or you get a service or whatever. So that was a really interesting thing. And then, you know, I just became the ghost of Ground Loop Studios. I was always there. I was just hanging out. I'm not making money there, and I'm putting, you know, my talents to work in terms of whatever. And then some guy from this band called Revenge of the Egg People, he had a CD out, and as far as I was concerned, these guys are Motley Crue because they're selling music and they're printing CDs. It's like manufactured. It's insane. You guys made it. And they said, hey, well, like, what you working on back there in the other room? And I'm like, electronic music, whatever. He was like, oh, well, we should do a remix, like a bonus track. And I was like, really? No way. Okay, I'll try it out. And, you know, and I took their song. It was actually, good luck if you find this one online. It was my first remix that I've ever done, and it's out somewhere, but I don't know if it ever made it online. But bonus points if you can find it. The band is called Revenge of the Egg People, and the song was called I'm Electric, and I remixed that, and that was the first body of work that I ever got done that made some kind of print. Now, mind you, it won't be a #1 by a long shot. But anyway, but that was really cool, right? So now all of a sudden it's like, wow, like I'm almost a stand on my own 2 feet artist. So ergo, go home, upgrade the computer, get an Echo MIA, which was like the boss of converters for me. Bought a couple cheap gear, like I bought a MC303, which was like my life savings and nuts, dude. And things evolved from there, you know. And then when new software started coming out, like I said, like Fruity Loops comes out, and Cubase comes out, and Ableton came out, to me was just like a joke, you know, because you could just get in there, you know how it works, you know what this does what, and it's just great. Yeah, it was, yeah, thanks. Como Code just tweeted at me. It was the Karma K remix, because yeah, this was before Halcyon 44.1 kind of thing. Yeah, really weird. Is this it? Electric? I'm Electric, Karma K remix. People found it. Yeah, it's, oh my god, that's hilarious. It is online somehow. Original release date, 2013? I don't think so, dude. Weird. Maybe they re-released it or something and said, hey, oh, well, Deadmau5 is huge now. Let's put it out. I'll bet you that's what happened. I'm gonna call them. Now their album just goes platinum. Anyway, it's pretty interesting how that happens. That's funny. Yeah, and like I said, I bought a bit of software and just got to work. Oh my god, there it is. Let's listen. Oh, I haven't heard this. I haven't heard this track in at least 10 years. This should be interesting. Oh my god, everyone's like, found it! I found it! Oh, this video is unavailable. Hang on, maybe I got a wrong link. Dude, I can't. It says it's this video is not available. It's really, it's not like an amazing track. I mean, considering that was done with 0 gear, the oldest software imaginable. I remember I used Hammerhead to do the drum backing and just kept layering, and I didn't even use a DAW really. I just kept cutting, like, I did it in SoundForge, I think, where I had to cut loops and paste them and paste them and paste them over a period of time. Why is it unavailable for me? Did it get pulled down already? It is on iTunes. That track is on my streaming service? Yeah, right. I'm Electric, Karma K remix. Wait. Dude, it doesn't even run this time, I guess. Quick time, slow time, anytime, today time. Nope. You know what? Maybe. How do I not have it on my? Oh, because it's 100 years old. That would be why. Yeah, Hammerhead was like a drum loop software, and I used a lot of Rubber Duck too, because those partners, those two pieces of software just went together like mayonnaise and toothpaste. So good. It is on Tidal. Go figure. Let me see if I can get it to play. Play in Tidal. There we go. So bad! Anyway, you get the gist. Oh, that's embarrassing. That was my animals. Sorry. Yeah, I did. I got it. That's so funny. Anyway, and then, you know, software came out, blah, 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 learn that, and then discovered the invariable treasure chest that sidechain compression is, and made Faxing Berlin and called it a day. That's my life story. More or less. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, whenever I'm like introduced to, like new artists and stuff like that, I mean, can you really blame me for being a little like kind of, it's cool? Because I know a lot of dudes that have gone through the exact same process. Some did better than others, but that's just the roll of dice. That is life. And, but it just makes me a little bitter when, hey guys, I got this vengeance kick and a woodblock. I didn't go to school for this. That's cool. Like, well, neither did I, to be fair. Where did the name Faxing Berlin come from? That came from Max Graham, believe it or not. I actually wanted to call the track something really embarrassingly stupid because I thought it was a cool track. Like, I kind of had an ear for what was out there and all that stuff, and I knew that was like kind of different, same enough that it would do semi well like on the market. So I thought that I should give it some really stupid name. So I was going to call it like Drop the Bomb, the XX Extreme Mix, and like something really ugly. And me and Max Graham were talking on AIM at the time, and we were going back and forth and trying to outdo one another in the worst name possible for this track. So like somewhere in that conversation, he's like, hang on, I gotta go fax this stuff over to Berlin. And he took too long, so by the time he came back, before I uploaded it, I just called it Faxing Berlin and uploaded it. And then he came back and I was like, yeah, I just called it Faxing Berlin. And he was like, oh, okay, whatever. That's cool. And then turns out like it's like one of these like kind of signature tracks of mine. I was like, I should have named it something else. So yeah. So that's how that all came to be.